Hi there. Welcome to the Swaby household. My name is Ashley and I am the Director of Marketing and Digital Communications for a franchisee of Arby's. Our company is called Heartland Beef Inc, or HBI, and we own and operate just under 40 Arby's restaurants across 5 Midwest states and 8 different markets. So a little about my career thus far and what led me to my current position. So the road that I took to get where I am today is a bit of a windy one. I started working for this company at the store level, actually. It was my very first job. Started 12 years ago, the summer before my senior year of high school. I started as a frontline closer, so I worked the registers, filled orders, I cleaned the store up at night. I worked off and on at my store in Greene County, Linton to be specific, if anyone knows Greene County, all throughout college, learning all the floor positions, and then ultimately becoming a team trainer during that time. And then the week that I graduated with my bachelor's in mathematics, minor in computer science, I was offered a full-time management position at the store. I didn't really have anything lined up after college, so I accepted, and I excelled at that for about a year. And then I got another promotion and was on course to eventually run the store myself as general manager within a couple of years. When I decided that I really needed to buckle down and start searching for work that would put my $34,000 degree from IU to better use. So I reached out a year and a half after graduating to the career services at IU, and I worked with a couple lovely gals at that office on polishing my resume and researching the types of careers that I was interested in. And I decided at that time that register programming would be the best and most logical application of my experience and education. So I then reached out to Heartland's head of HR, and I explained that although I felt I could do very well in operations, I really wanted to do something a little bit more in line with my education. And specifically, I remember I asked for a contact at corporate Arby's, or big Arby's, because I figured we weren't coding our own software at HBI. And she, luckily, took it upon herself to instead forward that email to our current CEO, but then President and CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Tom Brown. So long story short, they wanted to keep me with the company. They happened to have this marketing position available and offered a sort of dual position, marketing and register programming, though not programming in the strictest sense of writing lines of actual code, but programming nonetheless, so I was happy with that. So I accepted the position, which took me from second in command at a single store to being in charge of all things marketing across all 32 of our stores at the time. I was and am a single person department, so by default I also became a department head and answered directly to Tom, which ended up really being key to my success over the last 5 years, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. So I started in 2016 as the marketing coordinator for the company. I learned all of the basics within a couple of weeks, things like creating unique marketing pieces, for which I actually had to teach myself Photoshop, which was a good time, creating and publishing monthly marketing action plans for each of our markets, planning and coordinating grand opening events, deploying local restaurant marketing, which are just store-level tactics to build Arby's presence in our local communities. I had and still have voting power in our various marketing territories, so I represented the company there. And then after that, I learned a little HTML and CSS and overhauled our company website, something that I actually ended up doing twice since. So I took the lead as well on the annual fundraiser for the Arby's Foundation and all communication and reporting surrounding that. I relaunched our social media accounts. And so I slowly started redefining and redesigning the existing position, materials, and procedures that I had inherited. And happily, Tom was so delighted by my performance that he offered me more and more responsibility. I attended and spoke at a few big conferences representing the company. I was able to independently work on some professional development. Then I also took a deep dive into the software systems we use. I wanted to know how they worked individually and together, so that today, not only do I continue to do all of that, but I also serve as low-level IT for the office. I am a system admin for multiple software systems we use across the company, and I am solely responsible for our delivery initiatives, our entire point of sales system, which is our register system and sales data, and some third-party software called Mirrors that ties all of those systems together, even the ones I don't directly have my hands in, for cross-referencing and deep analysis, for which I'm actually just starting to create a couple training videos to roll out to the company in late spring, so I'm excited about that. Nowadays, I also do a healthy amount of consulting for other franchisees on digital initiatives. So that could be digital marketing, which includes social media marketing, delivery, POS, that point of sales programming, things of that nature. As well as nationally advocate for the Arby's division of Inspire Brands Foundation, which is what the Arby's Foundation evolved into after the holding company that owns Big Arby's, or Arby's the brand, purchased the Buffalo Wild Wings brand and another smaller concept called Our Taco. And that group, now called collectively Inspire Brands, then went on to also purchase Sonic and Jimmy John's. So that's a fun part of my job. What has helped me get to where I am today, and what advice do I have for others who might want to set off in a similar direction? So I would say that there are two things that are really hallmarks of my success. The first being an incredible mentor in Tom Brown, and then secondly, I would say advocating for myself, and we'll take both of those in turn here. So first, Tom. Tom has been absolutely instrumental in my journey at Heartland Beef. I remember the first time I technically met him was actually at the Linton Arby's. He did a secret shop for our annual service contest, the Hughes Cup, which is something else that I also took over. And I remember him being just super friendly, down to earth, despite owning the company. But that was a really brief interaction. When I think back to the first time I spoke with him, I think back to our first conversation about that marketing position that he was looking to fill. That was our first one-on-one. It was my first, real interview. And I remember feeling again like he was just so approachable and accessible, which was actually a bit odd, as I'm normally, and certainly was back then, a bit anxious. But he really put me at ease, and since those very early conversations, we've just hit it off. His leadership style and my learning style, as well as really just our personalities, they really just mesh really well. We work together very well. He's caring, he's generous, and he just has so much to offer by way of experience and knowledge. He offered very early on any resources he could provide. He afforded me a newfound work independence that I never really had before, and I really thrived in that environment. And secondly, I mentioned advocating for myself. If you feel ready to take on more, let somebody know. Sometimes that's as simple as literally saying, hey, I feel I'm ready to take on a little more. Is there anything I could help maybe the other departments with? And sometimes it means that you actually have to identify a specific task or project that you'd like to take on or get involved with. And then you have to ask for it, right? Now, I've done the latter a few times, and then other departments started offering. So I don't even have to ask anymore. It's pretty well just known that I'm eager for more and always rise to the occasion. I put out some good quality work. Now, I do want to note that sometimes that can also mean letting the right people know that you could use a hand. Maybe you'd like to grow your team or just get another set of eyes or hands involved. It's important that you realize that you are not the entire company, and sometimes you have to ask for help. And knowing when to do so, that is a mark of a good leader. So don't let your ego get in the way, and don't kill yourself just to call X, Y, and Z all yours. Right? So my advice is get yourself a mentor with whom you connect. Get someone at the table for you until you get to the table yourself. In other words, find yourself a champion. I don't know where I would be today if Tom wasn't there to help me along the way, to open doors, to offer feedback, to listen, and to encourage. And also speak up for yourself. Put yourself out there. Let your good work be seen, heard, and known. Sometimes that means getting a little bit out of your comfort zone, but don't be afraid of that. It'll pay off, I promise you. How has the field changed in the past 5 years, and what do you predict will happen in the next 5 or 10? Well, that's tricky, isn't it? All right, so as far as marketing and technology, I would say that the way that we reach our audience has changed vastly. And I would say that that's really because the way our audience consumes media has changed drastically in a very short amount of time. So 10 years ago, Facebook was basically it, right? 5 years ago, maybe we started seeing more and more serious contenders. Twitter was getting big, Tumblr becoming more of a thing, Insta popped up, Snapchat was born. And then just within the last few years, we've seen this massive explosion of options. WhatsApp, TikTok, Kick, if that's still a thing. Even Waze has a social component with the crowdsourcing piece. And that's just social media. Separately, there are video streaming services like Hulu and Netflix, HBO Now, digital video, which is distinct, stuff like YouTube, right? And all of those are taking just a ton of eyes away from traditional linear TV, which has always been king in the marketing world. And then there are audio streaming services like Pandora, Spotify, SiriusXM that compete with terrestrial radio. And for the longest time, I think advertisers in food service, especially where our marketing budgets aren't as big as some other industries, I feel like we kind of waited for a bit to see a lot of these platforms die out, but they never did. So we've had to attempt to find the tipping point, right? Specifically because there are so many viable options right now. We have to decide which ones do we invest in, which ones do we hold off on, let them develop a little bit more and grow. How much do we take from traditional TV and radio and move that to the digital platforms? It's all just super fragmented, and I don't think anyone besides maybe the McDonald's of the world has that dream marketing budget to cover all of the seemingly infinite channels nowadays. So I fully anticipate the digital world to continue to grow and evolve and offer more and more niche channels. So I expect our audience, which in and of itself continues to change every year, will just continue to fragment. And I'm eager to see what that means for the future of advertising and also the technology that will inevitably facilitate all of it. So already today we're able to track some crazy things with mainly just smartphones, smart TVs, and social media. You know, Facebook is a scary, scary place in that respect, where we can track whether or not you stepped foot inside of an Arby's restaurant within 48 hours of being served an ad, for example, just by you being logged in on your phone. Even if you don't connect to our public Wi-Fi or have your location turned on, those things help a little bit, but they are far from necessary anymore. So I'm very interested to see what that part of the advertising world, the analytics, the ROI, return on investment, tracking and calculation, evolves or maybe devolves into over the next 5 or 10 years. How did you become interested in this field? I'll take that as in marketing and technology. So I more or less fell into marketing. My degree is not in marketing or PR or anything like that. I never had a particularly strong interest in marketing. That was just where the need was in my company at the time. And my degree in mathematics lent itself nicely to the analytics side of the job. And you know, it's worked out really nice. I really enjoy the work and all the different people and vendors that I get to interact with. And I luckily have an eye for the fine details, and I can be a perfectionist. And those two things have served me very well in this field. And you know, marketing is a really cool thing. It's dynamic. It's very fluid. You know, this pandemic has been awful in a lot of ways. Very disruptive, minimally from a business perspective, right? But it's also been so fascinating watching everything unfold and bearing witness to corporates' agile marketing strategies at the national level. Historically, we would change our limited time offers and promotions once a month at most. But during this crisis, we were changing our messaging and tactics every few days. In the early days of it, it was unheard of and unprecedented and frankly, just really, really informative. And even in the best of times, there's just so much to learn. It changes constantly. And that's probably my ultimate passion in life, really is learning, which coincidentally is what draws me to technology. All right, it's ever changing. My job is amazing in that it changes by the month and the week and sometimes even by the day. So one day I could be updating an entire database in between working with a software vendor to fix some programming bugs in one or two of our systems, all while also fielding any incoming requests from the stores, occasionally having to pop out to remote into a store computer and check or fix something for them. And then the next day, I could find myself on a call with another franchisee discussing the nuances of the DoorDash platform before reaching out to radio stations and chambers of commerce for an upcoming new store opening. And all of that only after I update and publish the weekly sales report for the company, plus schedule some Facebook posts for the week. So my job is super fluid, really all parts of it. And that is what really makes it great for me personally. All right, and then real quick, I'm going to try and cover or answer what are some ways people from your industry are making a difference in the world, because this is actually my favorite question and very timely, as it so happens as well. So we actually have 6 Arby's values: work hard, play fair, have fun, dream big, get it done, and my favorite, make a difference. So as part of the twice yearly Make a Difference fundraising campaign, which I mentioned earlier, we raise funds through guest donations for the Arby's Foundation. It's the independent charitable arm of the brand that helps that helps America's kids dream big and pursue those dreams with confidence. The foundation has contributed more than $90 million to youth-related causes since its inception in 1986, and it's committed to helping kids build, expand, and pursue their dreams as we focus our efforts on ending childhood hunger, developing youth leadership, and career readiness initiatives. So what exactly does all of that mean? Well, we used to focus on ending immediate childhood hunger by partnering nationally with No Kid Hungry. A couple years ago, though, we expanded our vision to fight the problem at a higher level. We got to a point where we felt supporting organizations like No Kid Hungry and our local food pantries, Community Kitchen, looking at you, programming like Schools Out, Foods In, and Backpack Buddies, that work was great and oh so important, but wouldn't it be even better if we could also fight poverty and food insecurity at a systemic level by supporting groups that work to break the cycle? Groups like Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Junior Achievement, DECA, a high school entrepreneurship program, Destination Imagination, a STEM program, FFA even, breaking down barriers that our most vulnerable population runs into time and again to afford them the same wonderful opportunities and resources that every kid should have. Wouldn't that be even better? So nowadays, we still partner with No Kid Hungry, but in addition, we also support these really fantastic youth-serving nonprofits to get our kids taken care of both immediately and in the long term. So we at HBI have raised over $500,000 in the past 5 years alone for the Arby's Foundation because we so believe in what they do and how crucial that work is. We've supported nonprofits all across the Midwest, including food banks, work readiness programs like Kids in Motion out in Hannibal, Missouri, youth development programming like Rock of Hope in Springfield, Ohio, and so much more. Really just amazing groups doing amazing work. It is one of the very best parts of my job, my company, and my brand. I feel together we are a force of change, and I am so very proud of that. So that is all for you guys today that I have. I hope you guys found that useful, and I hope you guys are staying safe, washing your hands, and social distancing. Thank you.